War has always been brutal, but also strangely inventive. These are the real military facts so bizarre they sound impossible, until history proves otherwise. The history of human conflict is a tapestry woven not just with threads of courage and tragedy, but also with strands of sheer, unadulterated absurdity. Prepare to question everything you thought you knew about warfare. Let's start with a scene from antiquity. Picture a colossal war elephant, a living, breathing tank, thundering across the battlefield, striking terror into the hearts of Roman legionaries. How do you stop such a beast? With a sword? A spear? No. The Romans, in a moment of desperate genius, turned to pigs. They would coat the pigs in oil, set them on fire, and send them squealing towards the enemy's elephant lines. The terrified elephants, panicked by the noise and flames, would bolt, often trampling their own troops in their chaotic retreat. It's an image that's hard to shake. Flaming pigs, the unlikely heroes of ancient Rome. Fast forward to World War II, a conflict defined by technological marvels. But sometimes, the most effective tools are the simplest. Soldiers fighting in the wet, muddy trenches of Europe and the humid jungles of the Pacific faced a common enemy: moisture. A rusty rifle barrel could be a death sentence. Their solution? The humble condom. Stretched over the muzzle of their rifles, it provided a cheap, waterproof, and readily available seal, keeping the barrels dry and ready for action until the moment they needed to fire. Ingenuity in its most practical and perhaps unexpected form. But not all wartime innovations were so contained. During that same war, Japan launched one of the most surreal attacks in history. Not with battleships or bombers, but with thousands of hydrogen balloons. Each balloon carried a bomb, designed to drift across the Pacific on the jet stream and land somewhere in North America. While most failed, some did reach their target. In May 1945, one of these Fugo balloon bombs landed in a forest in Oregon, where it was discovered by a pregnant woman and 5 children on a church outing. The resulting explosion claimed all 6 of their lives, the only known civilian casualties on the continental U.S. from enemy action during the war. When we think of war, we often imagine long, drawn-out struggles. But what about the shortest war in history? That title belongs to the Anglo-Zanzibar War of 1896. It began when a new sultan took the throne in Zanzibar without British approval. The British Royal Navy issued an ultimatum. When it expired, they opened fire. The conflict lasted a mere 38 minutes. By the time the smoke cleared, the Sultan's palace was in ruins, and the war was over. 38 minutes. Barely enough time to make a cup of tea. Now let's talk about another bizarre piece of World War II technology. Long before GPS and smart bombs, how do you guide a projectile to its target with precision? The answer, according to psychologist B.F. Skinner, was pigeons. Project Pigeon was a real American military project that aimed to place pigeons inside the nose cone of a missile. The pigeons were trained to peck at an image of the target on a screen, and their pecks would control the missile's fins, steering it towards its destination. The project was eventually canceled, deemed too impractical. But for a moment, the fate of guided warfare rested on the wings of a pigeon. Speaking of ambitious projects, the Cold War was a hotbed of them. In the late 1950s, with the space race in full swing, the U.S. Air Force concocted a plan known as Project A-119. The goal? To detonate a nuclear bomb on the moon. It wasn't for scientific purposes. It was a pure, unfiltered show of force, intended to be visible from Earth. A terrifying demonstration of American power to the Soviets. Thankfully, cooler heads prevailed, and the plan to nuke our celestial neighbor was quietly shelved. If there's one figure who defines European warfare, it's Napoleon Bonaparte. His ambition was matched only by his persistence. How persistent? He fought against coalitions led by the same core country 7 different times. The wars of the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and Seventh coalitions were a series of continent-spanning conflicts where nations, often bankrolled and organized by Great Britain, lined up against Napoleonic France. 7 times they fought. It was the ultimate historical grudge match. From grand strategy, let's zoom in to the individual soldier. The sniper. A figure of myth and fear. In 2017, a Canadian Special Forces sniper in Iraq made history. From a staggering distance of over 3.5 kilometers, that's more than 2 miles, he neutralized a target. To put that in perspective, the bullet was in the air for nearly 10 seconds, affected by wind, gravity, and even the rotation of the Earth. It's a feat of skill and science that pushes the very limits of what seems humanly possible. Let's rewind the clock again, to a time of stone walls and shining armor. How did medieval defenders protect their castles from invaders trying to scale the walls? They had boiling oil, yes, but they also had bees and honey. Launching skeps, or beehives, onto besieging soldiers was a brutally effective tactic. The swarming, angry bees would cause chaos and pain. Defenders would also boil honey and pour it down, not just for its scalding properties, but because it would gum up armor joints, restricting movement and making soldiers vulnerable. A sticky and painful situation. World War II was also a war of deception, and no one practiced deception quite like the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, better known as the Ghost Army. This unit was comprised not of commandos, but of artists, sound engineers, actors, and designers. Their mission? To create illusions. They used inflatable tanks, sound trucks blasting recordings of troop movements, and fake radio traffic to impersonate other, much larger U.S. Army units. They could make the enemy believe a massive force was ready to attack in one location, while the real invasion was happening miles away. They fought with creativity, saving thousands of lives through pure trickery. The history of warfare is also, grimly, the history of finding new and terrible ways to harm one another. The first recorded instance of biological warfare is as horrifying as it is ancient. During the 14th century siege of Kaffa, a city in modern-day Ukraine, the attacking Mongol army was ravaged by the Black Death. So, what did they do? They loaded the corpses of their plague-infected soldiers onto catapults and hurled them over the city walls, contaminating the city's water supply and spreading the disease among the defenders. A truly ghastly tactic that changed the course of the siege. We mentioned war elephants earlier, but their story gets even more elaborate. These weren't just animals sent charging into battle. They were fully weaponized platforms. They were often fitted with their own armor, including chainmail and plates to protect their heads and trunks. On their backs, they carried towers called howdahs, filled with archers and spearmen. Some were even armed with swords or large blades attached to their tusks. They were the original heavy cavalry, a terrifying and majestic sight on the ancient battlefield. Deception wasn't just for the Ghost Army. Individual soldiers and spies also got creative. During World War II, the British intelligence agency MI9 devised a clever way to smuggle escape maps to prisoners of war. They printed the maps on silk, which is durable, quiet, and easily concealable, and hid them in all sorts of everyday items. They were tucked inside playing cards, hollowed-out heels of boots, and ingeniously sealed inside tubes of toothpaste. A captured airman could have a complete escape kit right under the noses of his captors. If pigeon-guided missiles weren't strange enough, let's talk about Project Acoustic Kitty. In the 1960s, in the paranoid heights of the Cold War, the CIA spent millions of dollars on a project to turn cats into listening devices. The plan involved surgically implanting a microphone in the cat's ear canal and a transmitter at the base of its skull, with an antenna woven into its fur. The idea was to release the cat near Soviet officials and have it eavesdrop on their conversations. Their first and only field test was a disaster. As they released the cat near a park, it was immediately hit and killed by a taxi. The project was promptly scrapped. The echoes of war can last for decades. In Europe, the ground is still seeded with the deadly harvest of World War II. An estimated 10% of the bombs dropped during the war failed to detonate. These unexploded bombs, known as UXO, are still being discovered regularly during construction projects. Bomb disposal squads in Germany, Britain, and France are among the busiest in the world. It's a sobering thought that, on average, a W2 bomb is found and has to be dealt with every few weeks, a ghost of the past still posing a very real threat. In the age of the samurai, their armor was a work of art and a marvel of engineering. Constructed from lacquered plates of leather and iron, woven together with silk cords, it was designed to be flexible yet strong. It could deflect a sword blow and even stop an arrow. But then came the 16th century, and with it, the arrival of Portuguese traders carrying firearms. The traditional samurai armor, which had served them for centuries, was no match for the penetrating power of an arquebus bullet. This new technology would forever change the face of Japanese warfare. The complexities of family loyalty can be tested by war, and there's no stranger example than the Hitler family. Adolf Hitler's nephew, William Patrick Hitler, was born in Liverpool, England, to Hitler's half-brother. After a falling out with his powerful uncle, William moved to the United States. When America entered World War II, he petitioned President Roosevelt and was eventually permitted to join the U.S. Navy. He served as a pharmacist's mate, was wounded in action, and awarded a Purple Heart. The nephew of the Führer fought honorably for the Allied cause. During World War I, as naval warfare evolved, a new problem arose: how to protect massive battleships from enemy rangefinders and torpedoes. The answer was not to hide them, but to confuse the enemy. An artist named Norman Wilkinson proposed a radical idea: dazzle camouflage. Instead of blending in, ships were painted with wild, intersecting patterns and bold, contrasting colors. The goal wasn't to be invisible, but to make it incredibly difficult for an enemy to judge the ship's type, size, speed, and heading. It was art as a weapon, turning the sea into a surrealist painting. The Mongol Empire, under Genghis Khan and his successors, became the largest contiguous land empire in history. Their success wasn't just due to their skill as horsemen and archers, but also their cunning psychological tactics. One of their signature moves was the feigned retreat. A portion of the Mongol army would pretend to break and flee in panic, luring an overconfident enemy into a reckless pursuit. The trap would then spring. The fleeing Mongols would turn, joined by hidden reserves, and annihilate the now disorganized and exhausted enemy force. It was a strategy they perfected, turning their enemy's aggression against them. Finally, we turn to the smallest state in the world, Vatican City. Does it have an army? The answer is yes. The Pontifical Swiss Guard, famous for their colorful Renaissance-era uniforms, is the de facto military of the Vatican. While their role today is mostly ceremonial and protective, they are a highly trained and disciplined force of Swiss soldiers. With a history stretching back over 500 years, they are one of the oldest standing military units in the world. It's a reminder that even in the heart of peace and faith, the echoes of military tradition remain. From flaming pigs to spy cats, from 38-minute wars to bombs that wait 80 years to be found, the history of war is stranger, more creative, and more unbelievable than we could ever imagine. It shows us that in the face of conflict, human ingenuity knows no bounds, for better and for worse. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the weirder side of military history. If you found these facts as fascinating as we did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden corners of the past. Let us know in the comments which fact shocked you the most. See you next time.